Welcome to Walking Tour of New York, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in New York with every episode. Each week, we'll travel to a different destination, from the streets of Manhattan, the Brooklyn waterfront, and the energy of Times Square to the Adirondack High Peaks, Finger Lakes wine country, Niagara Falls, the Hudson Valley, and hidden gems tucked away in small towns across this extraordinary place. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore New York. You're standing outside Yankee Stadium in the South Bronx, and even before you walk through the gates, the building is already doing something to you. The exterior rises wide and pale above the street, its limestone facade catching the light in a way that makes it look older than it is, which is entirely the point. The architects who designed this stadium, which opened in 2009, wanted it to feel like a continuation of something, not a replacement, and they succeeded. The replica frieze running along the roof line, the arched windows, the sheer scale of the structure, it all says that whatever happened here before is still happening here now. Before we go inside, let's take a moment with the history you're standing in. The original Yankee Stadium opened just across 161st Street on April 18, 1923. It was the first professional sports facility ever to be formally called a stadium. Everything before, it was a field or a park. And on that opening day, a big barrel-chested outfielder named Babe Ruth hit a 3-run home run before a crowd somewhere in the neighborhood of 74,000 people. The nickname that followed, the house that Ruth built, has been attached to the Yankees ever since. The original building came down after the 2008 season and the site was converted back into parkland. But the Yankees carried everything that mattered across the street with them, and when you step inside today, you'll feel it. Let's walk in through the Great Hall. This is the main entrance at Gate 6, and the first thing you notice is the space itself. At 31,000 square feet, the Great Hall is the largest open-air entry to any sports venue in the world. The ceiling opens to the sky, natural light pours in, and banners of Yankee legends hang along the walls: Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, Jeter, Rivera. The building is designed in what the architects called Yankee Gray, a color choice that honors the team's uniform tradition and gives the whole interior a cool, serious, timeless quality. Fans gather here before games, and there is almost always a low-level hum of anticipation in this space, even hours before first pitch. If you are here on a non-game day for a tour, the Great Hall still carries that feeling. Something about the scale of it makes you stand up a little straighter. Just off the Great Hall, near Gate 6, is the New York Yankees Museum. It is compact by the standards of a franchise with this much history, but that is by design. The entire stadium, in a sense, is the museum. What this room does is slow you down and put specific artifacts in your hands, or close enough to them. You'll find World Series trophies, game-used equipment, historic uniforms worn by the men whose names you've known your whole life. There are signed baseballs and photographs and video highlights going back to the silent film era of the franchise. And then there is the ball wall, a long, unbroken stretch of display cases lined with thousands of autographed baseballs from Yankees players across the generations. There is no great interpretive panel next to it. You just stand there and look at all those signatures and feel the accumulation of years. It is, oddly, one of the most moving things in the building. Exhibits throughout the museum trace the arc of specific moments rather than trying to cover everything. Lou Gehrig's farewell speech on July 4, 1939, when a man dying of a disease that would soon bear his name stood at home plate and told 62,000 people that he considered himself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Roger Maris hitting his 61st home run in 1961, the final day of the season, in front of a half-empty house because some fans were rooting against him, breaking Babe Ruth's record. Reggie Jackson in Game 6 of the 1977 World Series, stepping to the plate 3 times and hitting 3 home runs on 3 consecutive pitches from 3 different pitchers. The museum does not try to recreate these moments so much as it places you near them and trusts you to feel the distance close. Now let's move out into the seating bowl. The current stadium uses a bowl design rather than the tiered structure of the original, which means the stands slope back more gradually and the concourses are wider, nearly double the width of what fans had to navigate in the old park. Sightlines throughout the bowl are excellent. From almost any seat in the house, you have a clear view of the field, and the high-definition video boards bring the action close no matter where you're sitting. The seating capacity runs just over 50,000, which sounds enormous and is enormous. But the bowl design has a way of making the crowd feel concentrated rather than spread thin. Take a look at the field itself. The dimensions closely mimic the original Yankee Stadium as it stood in its later decades. And those dimensions were always a little unusual, shaped in part by the legend they were designed to accommodate. The right field line is relatively short, a feature long known as the short porch, which favored left-handed sluggers in the Ruth era and continued to favor powerful lefties well into the modern game. Center field stretches out considerably further. In the old stadium, the deepest part of center was nicknamed Death Valley because it swallowed drives that would have been home runs anywhere else. The current park honors that spirit without quite replicating the punishment of the original dimensions. Now, here is a detail worth finding while you're in the seating bowl. Look out toward right field and find the gap in the fence. There is a deliberate opening there, and through it, if the timing is right, you can watch an elevated train pass by outside the stadium. It is a quiet architectural joke that is also a piece of history. The original Yankee Stadium had a similar gap through which fans could watch the old elevated line roll past. The architects put it back in the new park as a nod to that tradition. In a building full of grand gestures and soaring spaces, this small gap is one of the most specifically Bronx things about the whole experience. If you are here for a game, Section 203 in right field is where you'll find the bleacher creatures, one of the most organized and passionate fan sections in professional sports. Since the mid-1990s, the bleacher creatures have performed the roll call before every home game, chanting each starter's name syllable by syllable until that player acknowledges them with a wave or a tip of the cap. It begins before the first pitch, and it carries across the stadium. If you're anywhere near right field, you'll hear it. It is one of the genuinely organic traditions left in modern baseball, and it emerged from this particular corner of this particular ballpark, which tells you something about the relationship between the Yankees and the people who have always come to watch them. Let's make our way now to Monument Park, which sits beyond the center field wall. You access it from the concourse, and the moment you pass through the opening, the noise of the stadium drops away. Even on a crowded game day, people tend to move through Monument Park quietly, as if they understand instinctively that this is a different kind of space. It is an open-air collection of monuments, plaques, and retired numbers honoring the greatest figures in Yankees history. And it is the most sacred real estate in baseball. The history of this park goes back to 1932, when the Yankees placed the first monument deep in center field of the original stadium to honor their beloved manager Miller Huggins, who had died suddenly in 1929. In those early years, the monuments were actually in the field of play. Outfielders had to navigate around them on the rare occasions a ball was hit that far. Manager Casey Stengel once reportedly shouted during a play near the monuments, "Ruth, Gehrig, Huggins, somebody get that ball back to the infield." When the stadium was renovated in the mid-1970s, the center field fence was moved in and the monuments were enclosed behind it, creating the formalized monument park that fans came to know over the following decades. When the Yankees moved into the current stadium in 2009, they recreated Monument Park beyond center field with the same care and arrangement. The monuments themselves, large blocks of red granite with bronze plaques, belong to 6 individuals the Yankees have considered their greatest: manager Miller Huggins, first baseman Lou Gehrig, right fielder Babe Ruth, center fielder Joe DiMaggio, center fielder Mickey Mantle, and owner George Steinbrenner. 6 monuments in more than a century of baseball. The standard for inclusion is not written down anywhere, and the Yankees organization has been deliberately vague about the criteria. But the result speaks clearly enough. The retired numbers line the walls flanking the monuments, and they tell the story of the franchise in shorthand. Every number from 1 through 10 has been retired by the Yankees. A remarkable and unique achievement in all of professional sports. Number 3 for Ruth, number 4 for Gehrig, the first number ever retired by any team in Major League Baseball, done in 1939, the year of his farewell speech. Number 5 for DiMaggio. Number 7 for Mantle. Number 8, retired twice, for Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra. Jackie Robinson's number 42 is displayed here as well, retired league-wide in 1997 on the 50th anniversary of his Major League debut. In all, 22 numbers and 37 plaques honor players, managers, coaches, broadcasters, and contributors. Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter were the most recent additions, inducted in 2016 and 2017 respectively. Stand in front of the 5 monuments to Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, and Huggins for a moment. There's a detail here that stops a lot of visitors when they learn it. When Mickey Mantle received his plaque during a ceremony in 1969, he asked that Joe DiMaggio's plaque be hung a little bit higher than his own. That gesture, from one of the greatest players in baseball history deferring to another, says something about the character of the men enshrined in this place. You can tell which plaque is DiMaggio's by its position. Mantle, who was famous for his humor as much as his talent, arranged it that way on purpose. One more thing about Monument Park before we move on. The original 3 monuments, Huggins, Ruth, and Gehrig, were placed in the field of play, as we mentioned. But there was a tradition at the original stadium where fans, after the final out, could walk across the outfield to reach the exits. Some would stop at the monuments on their way out. There are accounts of fans touching the stone, pausing with their heads bowed, treating them not as decorations but as something closer to what they looked like, grave markers. The Yankees never discouraged this. The park was officially opened to public access in 1985, and by the final season of the original stadium in 2008, more than 150,000 fans had passed through it. The pilgrimage continues in the current building, and it shows no sign of slowing. As you move back through the concourse, take note of what the food options here tell you about how the Yankees think about a trip to the stadium. This is not a hot dog and peanut situation, though you can certainly find both. Lobel's, the legendary New York butcher, has a station where they carve prime cuts in front of you. Steak-topped fries, USDA prime burgers, pastrami sandwiches that have no business being this good at a baseball game. Benihana offers hibachi and yakisoba bowls. There are local Bronx craft beers alongside the national brands, plant-based options, New York-style pizza, and Latin street food-inspired stands. The concourses are wide enough that you can grab a plate and watch the game on one of the in-stadium monitors without losing a pitch. Every screen inside Yankee Stadium shows the live game feed. It is a small thing, but it changes the whole experience of moving through the building. Before we close, a word about the neighborhood outside the gates. River Avenue, which runs along the east side of the stadium, is lined with sports bars and team merchandise shops that have served this neighborhood for generations. The Yankee Tavern, a block from the stadium, has been open since 1927, which means it was already an established institution when the original ballpark opened a few blocks away. Stan's Sports Bar, also on River Avenue, is a game-day-only operation that fills up fast and feels like the kind of place that exists nowhere else in the world. A few blocks south of the stadium, you'll find Porto Salvo for something a little quieter and more refined, and the Bronx Draft House for craft beer and a kitchen with solid food. These are the places Yankees fans have been coming to before and after games for years, and the loyalty of the crowd tells you everything about their quality. And if you are spending more time in the Bronx, which you should, Arthur Avenue is a short drive or cab ride northeast of the stadium. It is the real Little Italy of New York, not the tourist-facing version in Manhattan, but an actual working Italian-American neighborhood where families have been running the same pasta shops, bakeries, and pork stores for generations. It is one of the great eating experiences in the city, and most visitors from outside the borough never find it. Now you know. Yankee Stadium is, at its core, a place about accumulation. Everything inside it has been put there deliberately, with an awareness that this is a franchise people feel deeply about and a building that will be examined and argued over and remembered. The Great Hall is grand because grandeur is appropriate here. Monument Park is quiet because reverence is appropriate there. The gap in the right field fence is small and easy to miss, and that is appropriate too. A small private joke shared between the stadium and the people who love it. However you came to be here today, as a lifelong Yankees fan, as a curious visitor, as someone who just wanted to see what all the fuss was about, you are now inside one of the places where American culture has been happening loudly and continuously for more than 100 years. Look around, it is worth the attention. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring New York. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond New York, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and happy trails.